Title: The Fire You Feed, The Thrill and Tragedy of Infidelity. Chapter 1: The Spark That Starts It All. There is a strange thrill in the forbidden, a fire that dances just beyond the line you promised never to cross. It starts as a whisper, a glance, a smile held 1 second too long. Innocent, harmless, until it's not. That's how infidelity begins, not with a betrayal, but with a flicker, a temptation, a rush that feels too good to ignore. For many, cheating isn't planned. It arrives as something you tell yourself you're in control of. You're just talking, just enjoying the attention, just flirting, just, 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 until the just becomes something else, until it becomes what you swore you'd never do. Why is infidelity so intoxicating? Because it's forbidden. Because it makes you feel alive, desired, noticed, seen in a way you haven't felt in years. For those stuck in routines, weighed down by the burdens of long-term relationships, the idea of being someone new, or being seen as someone new, feels like oxygen, and in that moment, you forget about the wreckage behind you. You don't think about the person you're betraying or the promise you're breaking. All that exists is the thrill of the secret, the power of seduction, the dangerous beauty of something that's not yours to touch. Cheating, in its earliest moments, can feel like freedom. It's the sweet escape from the monotony, a rebellion against the life you helped build but now feel trapped in. For a fleeting time, you're not just a partner, a spouse, a parent. You're wanted. You're someone's fantasy. You're alive in ways you haven't felt in years. But the truth is, infidelity is a lie disguised as excitement. The thrill is real, but so is the destruction that follows. It's like dancing in a burning room, beautiful and exhilarating, until the flames consume everything. It's easy to paint cheating as evil, to call cheaters heartless or selfish. But reality is more complicated. People cheat not always because they want to hurt someone. Often, they're trying to fill a void, a need unmet, a desire for validation, for adventure, for a version of themselves they've lost in the slow decay of routine. And yet, no matter the reason, infidelity always comes with a price. The danger of cheating isn't just the act, it's what it awakens inside you, the ability to lie to someone you once loved, the ease with which you can justify it, the slippery slope of deception. You begin to live two lives, one of illusion, one of truth. And the longer you live them both, the harder it is to reconcile who you really are. There is an emotional cost to infidelity that few talk about: the guilt, the secrecy, the anxiety of being found out, the paranoia, the way your heart races, not with excitement, but with fear. Fear of exposure, of consequence, of becoming the villain in someone else's story. And in time, even the thrill fades. What's left is the fallout. Infidelity seduces you by promising more pleasure, more passion, more life. But it doesn't give more. It takes. It chips away at trust, at connection, at integrity. It breaks people, not just the ones betrayed, but often the ones doing the betraying. This isn't a lecture, it's a mirror. Because if you've cheated, you know this duality. If you've been cheated on, you've lived the storm that follows. And if you're teetering on the edge, you're standing at the crossroads of what could be a momentary high or a lifelong regret. Infidelity isn't just an act of betrayal, it's an unraveling, a crack that spreads. It starts with a spark, but sparks feed fire, and fire doesn't care who it burns. Chapter 2: The Mask of Desire. 4,900 characters. When you're in it, when you're deep in the fantasy, infidelity doesn't feel like destruction. It feels like connection. It feels like something rare. You convince yourself it's different, that you're not like the others, that what you found is special, that the rules don't apply to you because what's happening is real, pure, honest in a way your actual relationship hasn't been for years. But that's the great trick, isn't it? The illusion of authenticity in a lie. Desire wears a beautiful mask. It looks like intimacy, speaks like love, and seduces like a soulmate. And because it feels so good, so intoxicating, you believe it must be right. You tell yourself you deserve this, that you've earned this happiness, that your partner pushed you here, or didn't notice you, or hasn't touched you in months, that it's not your fault. You tell yourself anything that lets you sleep at night with a lie tucked beneath your pillow. But the truth you're running from always finds its way back. It creeps in during quiet moments. It shows up in the way you flinch when your partner reaches for your phone, in the way you avoid eye contact, in the guilt you swallow with every "I love you" that now feels like a performance. Infidelity fractures your relationship, but it also fractures your sense of self. Because when you lie to someone you love, you slowly start lying to yourself. It's not always physical either. Emotional affairs cut just as deep, sometimes deeper. When you share secrets, dreams, and private jokes with someone else, when you save your best self for them, you're giving away parts of you that your partner thought were theirs. You may not touch, but the intimacy is real, and the betrayal is just as sharp. What makes infidelity so devastating isn't only the act, it's the betrayal of trust, the tearing of the invisible thread that holds two people together. You don't just cheat on a person, you cheat on the memories, the promises, the shared life. You cheat on the future you said you'd build. You don't just break a heart, you break a reality. And even for the one doing the cheating, there's rarely peace. Because deep down, you know that no matter how good it feels in the moment, you're building something on unstable ground, that the passion isn't rooted in truth, it's rooted in escape, in the rush of newness. And the problem with escape is that eventually you have to come home. And when you do, you're not the same. You've tasted something wild, something dangerous, and now the ordinary feels dull. The life you once loved feels heavy. The person waiting for you feels like an obligation, not a choice. Cheating rewrites your story, and even if the affair ends, the effects linger. You see love differently. You see yourself differently. You wonder if you're capable of true loyalty, or if maybe you were never really built for monogamy. And in that wondering, you drift further away from the version of yourself you once were, the one who believed in forever. Infidelity isn't always about sex, it's about power, control, feeling desired when you feel invisible, being wanted when you feel numb. It's about reclaiming something, youth, excitement, identity. But it's also about avoidance, avoiding the hard conversations, the therapy, the silence, the disconnection. It's easier to cheat than to face the mirror, easier to light a new fire than to tend to the one you let burn out. But every choice leaves a mark. And the cost of infidelity isn't just a broken relationship, it's the loss of innocence, the loss of belief, the unraveling of something sacred. Even if no one finds out, you do. You live with it. You carry it. You shape your future through the filter of what you did, what you hid, and what you lost. It's easy to judge cheaters. It's harder to understand them. But until we understand what drives people to that edge, we'll keep pretending it's a black and white issue. It's not. It's gray. It's messy. It's deeply human. But human doesn't always mean right. Chapter 3: The Fallout. The truth always lands like thunder, whether it crashes in an unexpected confession or unravels slowly through late-night texts and quiet suspicions. The moment of discovery is shattering. Time slows, the ground shifts, and everything, every smile, every kiss, every shared memory, suddenly comes into question. For the person betrayed, Infidelity is a kind of emotional violence. It rips through trust with a sharpness that words can't contain. It isn't just about sex, it's about being lied to, deceived, made to feel small, invisible, unwanted. It's the kind of wound that doesn't bleed on the outside, but leaves scars on the soul. Questions flood the mind in the aftermath. Was any of it real? When did it start? How could they? What did I do wrong? And perhaps the most brutal one, why wasn't I enough? The betrayed partner becomes a detective, a judge, a heartbroken stranger staring across the kitchen table at someone they thought they knew. They rewatch the past like a film reel, searching for clues they missed, replaying every moment with suspicion. Was that why they were cold that night? Was that text really from a coworker? Were they ever really present or just pretending? Infidelity doesn't just betray the present, it poisons the past and distorts the future. It creates emotional vertigo, a spinning sensation where nothing feels solid anymore. But the one who cheated, they're not always unscathed. If they have a conscience, if they ever truly cared, they're haunted by the pain they caused. The guilt doesn't always arrive right away. Sometimes it shows up in silence, in distance, in the way they can't look you in the eyes, in the way they look at themselves. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes after cheating, a hollow space where connection used to live. You don't just lose the affair partner or the primary partner, you lose a version of yourself, the version that believed you were a good person, that you'd never do such a thing. You stand in the wreckage of your own choices, holding the broken pieces of people you love, and wonder how you became the villain. Some try to fix it. Some beg for forgiveness. Some deny and deflect. Others walk away, too ashamed to stay, too selfish to fight. And forgiveness, it's not guaranteed. Not everyone heals. Not every couple survives. Some do, yes, but it's never without work. Trust doesn't grow back like weeds. It has to be planted again, nurtured, and even then, it never quite looks the same. To the one betrayed, you are not to blame for someone else's choice to cheat. Whatever issues existed in the relationship, the decision to lie, to deceive, to step outside, that was theirs. Healing will take time. You may never get all the answers. You may never feel closure, but you will find your footing again. You will learn to trust, even if it's just yourself at first. To the one who cheated, you need to look inward, not to justify, but to understand, not to escape, but to grow. You can't undo what's done, but you can take responsibility. You can become someone better, not for them, not to win them back, but for you. Because if you don't learn, you will repeat. And if you don't own it, you'll carry it like a shadow into every future relationship you touch. Infidelity is a death of sorts, a death of innocence, of security, of belief. But like all deaths, it can also become a doorway. For some, it marks the end of a relationship. For others, it sparks transformation. Hard conversations, honest rebuilding, real change. But no matter what happens next, the fallout is real. It's raw. It's painful. And it's a reminder what feels like a fantasy in the moment can become a nightmare when the lights come on. Chapter 4. The Shadow That Stays. Even after the dust settles, infidelity doesn't simply vanish. The act might be over. The apologies may have been spoken, forgiveness offered, or closure claimed, but the shadow remains. It clings to the quiet moments. It echoes in the silences. It lingers in the spaces where trust used to live. Infidelity changes how you see love. For the person who was cheated on, the world can become a landscape of suspicion. You check phones when you never used to. You analyze tone, question absences, dissect glances. Even if you stay, even if they're truly sorry, some part of you is always waiting, waiting for it to happen again, waiting to be hurt, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because now you know what love can hide. This isn't weakness, it's trauma, a natural response to betrayal. It takes immense strength to even try to trust again after someone's broken that sacred bond. And the worst part? Even new relationships carry the residue. Someone cheats on you once, and suddenly everyone feels like a risk. You build walls, you test people, you self sabotage. Not because you don't want love, but because you're terrified it will destroy you again. And for the person who cheated, you don't walk away unmarked. You may convince yourself you moved on, that the affair is behind you, that you're past all that. But deep inside, it's there, in the quiet, in the shame, in the way you second guess your own sincerity. You start wondering if you're trustworthy, not just to others, but to yourself. You question whether you're capable of deep love or just chasing sparks. Some carry guilt like a heavy coat they never remove. Others bury it so deep it rots beneath the surface, affecting future love in ways they can't name. Either way, it lingers. Because cheating isn't just something you do, it becomes something that shapes who you are. The shadow can even linger in the affair itself. Affairs often burn bright, but they burn fast. Once the secrecy is gone, once the stakes are different, it often becomes clear. What you thought was love was actually adrenaline, and what felt like deep connection was really shared escape. You bonded over the thrill of doing something forbidden, but the foundation was cracked from the beginning. And yet, despite all this, people still cheat. Again and again. Why? Because desire is powerful. Because people are lonely. Because relationships are hard. Because monogamy isn't natural for everyone. Because some people are broken. Some are selfish. Some are scared. And some are just human. That's not an excuse, but it is a reality. Infidelity forces us to look at ourselves, not just as individuals, but as a culture. We idealize romance, but avoid hard work. We want comfort and passion, safety and fire. And when they don't coexist, we go searching, not for solutions, but for substitutes. But running doesn't fix anything, it only delays the work. The real work of growing, of facing ourselves, of healing the damage that made us feel unseen or unwanted in the first place. That only happens when we stay, when we stop pretending we're fine and get honest, even when it hurts. The truth is, infidelity doesn't define you, but it does demand something from you. It demands that you examine the choices you made, that you face the pain you caused or endured, that you grow. Some relationships survive it, others don't. But everyone comes out changed. You don't get to choose whether the shadow follows you. You do get to choose whether you learn to walk in the light again. Chapter 5. Rebuilding or Letting Go. After the lies, after the tears, after the storm, there comes a quieter question. Now what? Infidelity doesn't end with discovery. That's just where the real story begins. The story of what you choose to do with the wreckage. The story of staying or leaving. Rebuilding or releasing. Forgiving or forever questioning. No one can make that choice for you. There is no right answer, only what's right for you. For some, staying feels like weakness. For others, leaving feels like giving up. But neither is true. Staying requires strength. So does walking away. What matters is why you're choosing what you're choosing. If you stay, you're choosing to do the hardest work imaginable, trying to rebuild something that was shattered, not patched, not forgotten, rebuilt. And that takes more than apologies. It takes brutal honesty. It takes therapy, communication, time. It takes the one who cheated stepping into deep accountability, not just once, but every single day. No excuses, no defensiveness, just the slow, painful work of proving they can be trusted again. And it takes the one who was betrayed learning to live with the fact that the past cannot be changed, that even if you heal, the scar will remain, that forgiveness is not forgetting. It's choosing peace over poison. It's choosing to let go of the fantasy of a perfect partner and love the person in front of you, flaws and all, if that's still what you want. And if it's not, then letting go is a form of love too, because sometimes the damage is too deep, the lies too heavy, the love too changed. Sometimes the kindest, strongest, bravest thing you can do is walk away, not in anger, but in clarity, not as a punishment, but as a release, not to hurt them, but to finally heal you. Leaving doesn't mean the love wasn't real. It just means you're choosing to love yourself more. But either way, stay or go, the path ahead will ask everything of you, because healing from infidelity isn't linear. It comes in waves. Some days you'll feel strong, other days broken. Some mornings you'll believe in your future again, and by nightfall the past will pull you under. That's normal, that's grief. Because betrayal isn't just an emotional wound, it's a death, the death of trust, the death of what you thought your life was. And like any grief, it demands to be felt before it can be released. Some couples come out stronger. They rebuild not what they had, but something new, more honest, more intimate, more resilient. Others drift apart, no matter how hard they try. But both outcomes are valid, both are real, and both hold the potential for growth. And for those who cheated, if you truly want to make amends, know this: love is not enough. Regret is not enough. It takes transparency, patience, consistency. It takes you showing up day after day, even when it's uncomfortable, even when you're tired, even when your partner is still angry, still crying, still afraid. You broke it. You rebuild it. Not just with words, but with actions. But don't just do it for them. Do it for you. Because growth born from guilt isn't growth. It's performance. You have to want to change because you've faced yourself and you've chosen better. You have to want to become someone who doesn't just avoid cheating again, but who understands why you did it and what you need to change within to never go back to that place. Infidelity can be a turning point, a painful awakening, a terrible gift wrapped in fire. It can reveal the parts of your relationship that were already broken, the parts of yourself that were already lost. And if you're willing to do the work, real, raw, relentless work, it can lead to something better, not perfect, but honest. And in the ruins of betrayal, honesty is a kind of miracle. Chapter 6: The Truth About Desire. 4,850 characters' desire is not the enemy. It's easy to point to lust, attraction, or temptation and call them villains in the story of infidelity. But the truth is more complicated. Desire is natural. It's human. It's part of what makes relationships exciting in the first place. The problem isn't that we feel it. The problem is what we do with it. We live in a world that feeds us a fantasy that there's one person out there who will meet every need, who will fulfill us physically, emotionally, spiritually, and do it effortlessly for the rest of our lives. But that's not love. That's a dream. And dreams don't wash dishes, raise children, or navigate years of emotional baggage. No one talks about how hard it is to sustain passion inside a long-term relationship, how routine can dull excitement, how resentment builds silently, how connection fades when left unattended. We're told that if love is real, it should always feel good. But the truth is, real love is often work, sometimes boring, sometimes frustrating, sometimes distant. And when you're in that space, when you feel more like roommates than lovers, that's when desire wanders. You meet someone new. They laugh at your jokes. They touch your arm. They make you feel like you again. Not just someone's partner or parent or provider, but someone with magnetism. And that spark? It feels like proof that something's been missing. And maybe it has. But the presence of desire doesn't mean the absence of love. You can be wildly attracted to someone else and still deeply love your partner. The urge to cheat doesn't always come from a lack of love. Sometimes it comes from a lack of attention or novelty or self-worth. We cheat not always because of who the other person is, but because of who we become when we're with them. And that's the real danger. Not the new person, but the new version of ourselves that they reflect back to us. One who is wanted, exciting, free. We fall in love with the mirror, not the muse. But here's the deeper truth. The version of you that you miss, the one who laughs, flirts, feels alive, that person isn't gone. You don't need to destroy your life to find them. You just need to stop hiding, stop numbing, stop going through the motions, and start being honest with yourself, with your partner, with your pain. Longing is not a curse, it's a message. It's your soul asking for more connection, more truth, more fire. But the answer to that hunger isn't always in someone else's arms. Sometimes it's in the conversation you've been too afraid to have, the therapy you've been avoiding, the vulnerability you've been protecting. You want passion? Create it. You want intimacy? Build it. You want to feel alive? Show up fully, not just with a stranger, but with the person you made promises to. Desire is not evil, it's information. What you do with it, that's where your character lives. There's nothing wrong with wanting more. The question is, do you want it bad enough to break trust? Or do you want it bad enough to fight for it where you are? Because infidelity might give you a new story, but at what cost? What are you willing to burn for a glimpse of yourself in a different light? And are you sure that glimpse is worth the ashes you leave behind? Chapter 7. The Other Person. We often talk about the cheater and the betrayed, the two people at the heart of the storm. But there's a third character in this story, the other person, the affair partner, the one in the shadows. Sometimes they know they're stepping into someone else's relationship. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just as deceived. And sometimes they don't care. But regardless of the circumstance, the role they play matters, and the impact runs deep. There's a certain seduction in being the one chosen in secret, to be desired so intensely that someone risks everything for you. It can feel flattering, powerful, addictive. You feel like the escape, the sanctuary, the spark they've been missing. But it's easy to mistake desperation for romance, and what starts as exciting quickly becomes complicated. You're told stories. We're not really happy. We haven't slept together in months. We're just staying together for the kids. They don't understand me like you do. And maybe some of those things are true. Maybe not. But the moment you become part of the lie, the moment you participate in the deception, you're no longer just a bystander. You become a co-author in someone else's heartbreak. You may not owe anything to the betrayed partner, but you do owe something to yourself. Honesty, integrity, clarity about the role you're playing and the story you're helping to tell. Because rarely do affairs end in the fairy tale. More often, they end in confusion, in loneliness, in the realization that if they lied to them for you, they might lie to you for someone else. And even when they don't, the relationship carries the weight of its origin story. It was born in shadows, and shadows are hard places to grow love. Some affair partners fall genuinely in love. Some are emotionally manipulated. Some are chasing their own unmet needs for validation, attention, rescue. But no matter how it begins, the truth eventually surfaces. And when it does, someone always ends up hurt. Sometimes everyone does. If you're the other person, You need to ask yourself, why this? Why now? What are you really looking for? Love? Security? Drama? Are you willing to be someone's secret? Someone's escape from their real life? And what does that say about what you believe you deserve? It's easy to villainize the affair partner. And yes, sometimes they're complicit, but often they're hurting too. Lonely, lost, caught in something that started small and spiraled. Not evil, just human, just flawed, like all of us. But there comes a point when you must choose. Do you keep participating in a story that hurts others and will eventually hurt you? Or do you step out? Do you continue playing a role in the lie? Or do you reclaim your dignity and walk away? You don't have to stay in something that's built on betrayal to prove you were worth the risk. You were always worthy, but not like this. Not hidden, not halfway, not in fragments. You deserve a love that's not borrowed, a love that doesn't arrive on someone else's broken promises, a love that shows up in daylight, unafraid, unashamed. And so does the person being betrayed. Affairs don't happen in a vacuum. They are tangled webs of longing, weakness, need, and secrecy. But each person in that triangle has a choice. And sometimes the bravest choice is to stop romanticizing the pain and start choosing peace, even if that means walking away. Chapter 8. When It Happens to You. No one ever thinks it'll happen to them. Infidelity is something that happens to other people, in other relationships, in stories you read or shows you watch, until suddenly it's your life, your heart, your home-turned battleground, and you're left standing in the ruins, asking yourself how something so intimate, so sacred, could be violated by the one person you trusted most. When it happens to you, everything changes. The betrayal hits differently. It's not just the act, it's the ripple, the way it touches every corner of your identity. You question yourself, your worth, your sanity. You wonder if you missed signs, if you were blind, if you were ever enough. It's a personal earthquake, shattering the self as much as the bond. And yet, the world often minimizes it. It's just sex. It didn't mean anything. You can get over it. But if you've lived it, you know, it's not about the sex, it's about the lies, the secrecy, the intimacy that was given to someone else without your knowledge or consent. It's about being made a fool in a story you didn't agree to be part of, and it hurts like hell. People may tell you to forgive quickly, to be the bigger person, to save the relationship, or the opposite, to walk away, burn it down, and never look back. But the truth is, no one can prescribe your healing. Only you know what your soul can carry. Only you know what forgiveness would cost, or what staying might steal. There is no roadmap, no perfect path. Some stay and rebuild, not because they're weak, but because they see potential, honesty, a true desire for change. Others leave reclaiming their peace at the price of letting go. Both choices are valid. Both are brave. What matters most is that you make the choice. Not guilt, not pressure, not fear. The healing will take time. It may feel like grief, because it is. You're grieving the version of your relationship you thought was real, the version of your partner you believed in, the version of yourself that felt safe. You may rage, cry, numb out, repress, repeat. Healing isn't linear. You may think you've moved on, only to be triggered by a word, a song, a sudden memory. That's okay. You're not broken. You're healing. And through it all, try to hold on to this truth. You didn't cause their betrayal. Their choices were never about your worth. They were about their wounds, their emptiness, their weakness. You are not the reason they cheated. You are the reason you survived it. You will trust again, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Because you deserve a life where fear doesn't lead the way, a love that feels safe, a heart that isn't constantly bracing for impact. You may not recognize yourself right now, raw, unmoored, shaken, but in time you'll see it, the strength beneath the scar, the clarity that only pain can carve, the fierce love you've begun to pour into yourself. When it happens to you, it feels like the end, but often it's the beginning of deeper self-respect, of boundaries, of truth, of choosing yourself in ways you never did before. You didn't ask for this pain, but you get to choose what you do with it. You can carry it like a wound or wear it like a badge. You can let it harden you or allow it to awaken you. You can let it define you or you can let it refine you. The choice is always yours. Chapter 9. The Ripple Effect. Infidelity doesn't just break hearts, it breaks families, friendships, and foundations built over years. Its impact is not confined to the couple at its center. Like a rock thrown into a still pond, the ripples reach far beyond the initial splash. Children, even if young or unaware of details, often sense the tension, the shift in energy, the cold silences. The doors close too quietly, and for those old enough to understand, the knowledge becomes a permanent mark. It changes the way they see relationships, trust, and love itself. Some grow to be wary of commitment. Others repeat the pattern they witnessed. Infidelity doesn't just wound the moment, it echoes into the future. Then there are the friends who are pulled into the fallout. Some take sides, others stay silent. Some offer support, while others disappear, unsure of how to handle the messiness. Loyalty is tested, opinions flare, and what was once a private love story becomes public property, dissected, discussed, and judged. Even the workplace can become entangled when affairs begin between coworkers. Reputations suffer, productivity plummets. What was once professional becomes personal, and everyone around becomes collateral. But beyond the obvious, there's a subtler, deeper ripple, one that hits the heart. Infidelity can make you question everything. If love can be betrayed so easily, can anything be trusted? It can leave people jaded, suspicious, hardened. They enter new relationships with baggage they never packed, building walls no one deserves, all because one person chose dishonesty over discomfort. That's the true legacy of cheating. It plants doubt where faith once lived. It turns open hearts into guarded ones. It rewrites the love story not just for one couple, but for everyone watching from the sidelines. And yet, within those ripples, there is opportunity, an opportunity for reckoning, for reflection, for honest dialogue about what we value, what we ignore, and what we need. Cheating is never just about the act. It's about what was neglected before it happened. And in the aftermath, there is a space, painful and raw, yes, but also ripe for truth. Families that confront infidelity openly can emerge with new understanding. Friends who hold space instead of judgment can help others heal. Children with the right support can learn resilience, communication, and what real accountability looks like. Because it's not the betrayal alone that defines us, it's how we respond to it. Some use infidelity as a mirror, facing the uncomfortable truths it reflects. Others use it as a mask, hiding from their own responsibility. Some seek healing, some seek revenge, some run from the pain, others walk straight through it. But everyone, in some way, is changed. You don't have to let someone else's betrayal become your identity. You don't have to let one moment rewrite your story. You are not defined by the worst thing that's happened to you or the worst thing you've done. You can choose to learn, to grow, to heal, to teach others what love is really made of, not perfection, but persistence. Not always fidelity, but honesty, repair, and depth. Infidelity causes destruction, yes, but destruction can clear space, And in that space, if you choose it, something new can grow. Chapter 10: Redemption, Renewal, and the Truth About Love. Infidelity ends many things, but it doesn't have to end everything. It can be the conclusion of a relationship, yes, but also the beginning of self-awareness, the death of old patterns, but also the birth of new values, the collapse of illusions, but also the construction of something real, not perfect, not easy, real, because beneath the pain, the guilt, the betrayal, there's a lesson. Sometimes infidelity teaches us where we were asleep in our own lives, where we let ourselves go numb, where we ignored needs, silenced desires, or allowed our truth to shrink for the sake of peace. It wakes us up, brutally, and forces us to look at who we are, what we want, and what we're willing to lose for it. Redemption is possible, but not guaranteed. It doesn't come through flowers or apologies. It comes through action, through consistent honesty, through painful accountability, through the courage to rebuild from the ground up, not pretending it never happened, but holding the truth between you. If you cheated, redemption begins with ownership. No blame shifting, no minimizing, just truth. A deep dive into why you did what you did and who you want to be from now on. Not for them, not for image, for you. Because if you don't heal the part of you that betrayed, you'll carry it forward and bleed into whatever love comes next. If you were cheated on, healing begins with release. Not of your pain, not at first, but of the false responsibility. You didn't cause this. You didn't deserve it. And you don't have to keep wearing the shame that isn't yours. You get to reclaim your worth, your voice, your boundaries. You get to decide what love means to you now and what you will never accept again. And for both people, if you choose to stay, it must be a new relationship, not a patched version of the old. You must both grieve the relationship that died and then consciously choose to create a new one, brick by brick. One where trust isn't assumed, it's earned. Where communication isn't avoided, it's prioritized. Where love isn't taken for granted, it's chosen again and again. Because that's the truth about love. It isn't a feeling, it's a choice. Infidelity shows us what love isn't. But in the aftermath, we have the chance to rediscover what love is. Love is hard conversations at midnight. It's unglamorous, inconvenient, and sometimes exhausting. It's holding space for pain you didn't cause. It's rebuilding what you didn't break. It's the bravery to show up, to apologize, to grow. Love isn't always faithful in action, but it can be faithful in effort, in repair, in evolution. And sometimes love means letting go. Walking away not in bitterness, but in truth. Recognizing that some chapters must close so that others can begin. That some people aren't meant to stay, they're meant to teach. Infidelity will never be a clean story. It's jagged, chaotic, and deeply human. It reveals our darkest flaws and our deepest desires. But it also reveals our capacity to change, to forgive, to rebuild, to love again, not despite the pain, but because of what it taught us. So, wherever you are in the story, the betrayed, the betrayer, the broken, or the one trying to heal, know this: you are not your worst moment. You are not unlovable because someone failed to love you well. You are not unworthy because you made a mistake. And you are never too far gone to begin again. Love is messy. Love is work. Love is real when it can survive truth. And truth, no matter how painful, is always the place where healing begins.